Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Lesson 4, Part 2. A lot of the things we're going to be covering in this lesson, we have to think of it like a giant cause and effect chart. So, French Revolution and America's role in it, the XYZ affair, and how South Carolina was directly related to it, the Alien and Sedition Acts, and of course the War of 1812. Now, let's start off with the French Revolution. Now, by 1789, the French people themselves had become really fed up with the French monarchy, and they, like the Americans, decided to revolt against their monarchy. The Democratic Republicans became very supportive of what the French people were trying to do because we could relate directly with what they wanted. They wanted to overthrow their monarchy and set up some sort of democratic republic. Now, on the other side, you had the Federalist Party. The Federalists were extremely shocked by the amount of bloodshed and just pure violence that was happening over there. A lot of beheadings, decapitations. The guillotine became a very common object seen in France at this time. And they were just very sickened to their stomachs by the sheer amount of violence. So not only did the Federalists support the French monarchy, but also they're going to support Great Britain itself because they realized Great Britain was our #1 trading partner. So you had the Federalists on one side really supporting Great Britain and their monarchy and the French monarchy, and then you had the Democratic Republicans supporting the people of France, the people rising up. So Mr. Washington, President Washington, being the diplomat that he was, proclaimed the Proclamation of Neutrality, which stated that the U.S. would stay neutral. We would not get involved in supporting the French or the English at this time. So Washington's second term is going to come to an end, and the next president is going to be John Adams. Well, John Adams tells the president, hey, I'm going to do my best to stay neutral, but I can't promise you what you want. I can't promise you complete neutrality. So what Adams does is he sends some diplomats over to France. While in France, these three guys, including Mr. Charles Pinckney, are going to get involved in what we call the XYZ affair. Now, the XYZ affair is very simple. X, Y, and Z represent three diplomats of the French government. They are going to demand a bribe to stop attacking our ships, all of our ships that are being involved in English trade. Well, Charles Pinckney, along with the other two diplomats from America, are going to refuse this bribe. They're going to refuse to pay money to keep France happy. He even states, no, not a sixpence. And a sixpence is just it's a denomination of money, and it's not very much money at that. So he's telling the French people, hey, we're not going to pay this bribe, even if it's a small amount. We'd rather pay millions to fight you than actually pay you money for a bribe. So the Federalists were prepared for war against France, but the Democratic Republicans felt extremely different about it. They would post newspaper articles that made President Adams seem like a very evil and maniacal person. So this is going to upset Adams quite a bit. And the effect of that, so remember, cause and effect, cause, XYZ affair, effect, Democratic Republicans are going to start writing nasty things about the president, and then another effect of that is the Alien and Sedition Acts. Now, the Alien Act would restrict immigration to America. The Federalists were alarmed at how many new immigrants were supporting the Democratic Republicans. They're trying to silence the Democratic Republicans. So by restricting the number of people and the people who can come over, you're going to naturally weaken your opponent's party. And the Sedition Act basically said, if you write anything evil or wrong or lies about anybody, especially the president, you could be removed from office. You could be fined. You could be kicked out of the country. And so Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, two guys who strongly opposed the Alien Sedition Acts, were like, hey, that is unconstitutional. That is not cool. So these new acts, as Thomas Jefferson would say, these new acts offend me so much, I'm going to propose a resolution that says states can nullify acts of Congress that they find to be unconstitutional. And James Madison extremely agreed with him. He's like, dude, I agree. Virginia and Kentucky, we can come up with these resolutions that give the states the power to nullify or cancel Congress laws. So the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions became the foundation for states' rights. Okay, we are going to see this pop up yet again in about 20 to 30 years, when more states' rights are going to be pushed and urged by states like South Carolina and John C. Calhoun. So we avoided war in a way with the French because eventually we would have peace with them, but then the British are going to get involved, and the British are going to do something extremely stupid, and they're going to practice a naval tactic called impressment, where they capture American ships and they tell those people in those American ships, either you're going to fight for us, you fight for the British, or we're going to kill you. And a lot of ships were taken under the impressment rules of Great Britain. And America is getting word of this, and they're not too happy about it. And so then what we ended up doing was passing the Embargo Act of 1807, just saying, hey, France, Great Britain, you guys don't get your stuff in gear. We're going to prohibit trading with you. So America was prohibited from trading with Great Britain or France, therefore affecting the bottom dollar of what we had. People in America can no longer trade with France or Great Britain. France and Great Britain goods cannot come over to America. So that is going to upset the Federalists quite a bit. The new Embargo Act was obviously very unpopular, as I said, with the Federalists, who were from New England. They built ships and promoted industry and trade. It would kill the shipping business in America. The Federalists would also oppose the War of 1812, but it happened to America anyway. Now, there's this young politician from South Carolina by the name of John C. Calhoun, and he, along with other congressmen who were similar political backgrounds, would help declare war on Great Britain. Calhoun was called a war hawk. A war hawk is nothing more than a politician or supporter of war. And South Carolina would be one of the major supporters of the War of 1812. To simply put it, the War of 1812, we first invaded Canada, where we defeated them, the land of hockey and maple syrup, In 1814, the British Army would then stroll down to Washington, D.C., set fire to not only the Capitol building, but also to the White House itself. 1815, treaties finally signed, but nothing is really exchanged. There's no exchange of land or money. It's more of a peaceful ending to a war that should have never even happened. Now, the impact of the War of 1812. A lot of people, a lot of historians consider this our second revolution, because we were able to once again defeat the British. We also see a surge in nationalism, which is love and devotion for one's country. The Federalist Party would die out because of their opposition to the war. And what we see happen is the Democratic Republican Party is going to rise up to replace the Federalist Party. And they're going to end up pushing the Federalist ideas, their political beliefs, including the high protective tariff and a national bank. Now, as I say, keep this in mind, it's a giant cause and effect chart. So we start out with the XYZ affair, then we have the Alien and Sedition Acts, then we have, of course, the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, and at the same time we're also having the War of 1812. So I want you to visualize in your mind a giant cause and effect. Okay, that's what history is, cause and effect, several events causing other effects to happen. I hope this helps. Check out the videos on our Google pages, and have a good afternoon.